Let's talk about Kubernetes credential providers. Hey there, Ian from Cloudsmith here. Last week, we published a blog post on how you can securely pull images from Cloudsmith into Kubernetes. We ended that blog post discussing a feature released in Kubernetes 1.20 called Credential Provider Plugins, and an additional update to that feature that's been made alpha in Kubernetes 1.33. In this video, we're going to explore those features a little bit more and show you what they mean for the future of pulling images from Cloudsmith on Kubernetes. So what is a credential provider plugin? Well, it's basically just a script or binary that kubelet can call out to get a token that it can be used to fetch images from a private repository. This saves you having to define an image pulled secret on all of your pods. So for example, when this first came out in Kubernetes 1.20, if you ran all of your compute on AWS and stored all of your images in ECR, you could have your credential provider plugin exchange your AWS instance profile identity for an ECR token that Kubelet could then use to seamlessly pull images from ECR. This is great if you ran everything on AWS, but if you use an external registry, such as Cloudsmith, it was a little bit difficult because you can't exchange a AWS identity for a Cloudsmith one. But in 1.33, they've announced an alpha feature that changes this. This new feature exposes the pod's service account token to the credential provider plugin. The pod's service account token is a JWT that follows the OpenID Connect standard. This means you can create a trust relationship between Cloudsmith and Kubernetes, allowing the service account tokens to be exchanged for Cloudsmith tokens, and in turn allow Kubernetes to seamlessly pull images from Cloudsmith without the need of any image pull secrets. This does require a Cloudsmith credential provider plugin to be implemented, but I've gone ahead and done this, so let's take it for a spin. On the right-hand side of my screen here, I have a Kubernetes credential provider config that has been passed to kubelet with the command line argument image credential provider config. And it tells kubelet that for any image that comes in that matches the registry docker.cloudsmith.io, call out to the binary Cloudsmith Kubernetes credential provider in order to get an authentication token to pull down that image. We're passing some environment variables here across to our binary so it knows what Cloudsmith org and what service slug to use for the token exchange. Down here, we're specifying the audience of the token, so we can only have Cloudsmith consume this token. And we're saying that the service account is required. This means our credential provider will get the Kubernetes service account token. And then we have defined some optional annotations that can be set on the service account to override these two settings here. So if you wanted a specific mapping between Kubernetes service account and Cloudsmith service account, you could do that using these annotations. On the Cloudsmith side of things, we have created a OpenID Connect provider that points at my local Kubernetes cluster. This allows Cloudsmith to fetch the well-known OpenID configuration and the JWKs for validation. Down here in my claims section, I've restricted it so that only service accounts within the default namespace are able to use this token exchange. So if I try bring up a pod in a namespace that isn't my default namespace, they won't be able to pull images from Cloudsmith. So let's jump over to my terminal window and see all this in action. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check my Kubernetes namespace first. And you can see here that I'm in a namespace called restricted. I'm going to do kubectl run. And I am going to create a pod that uses an image from Cloudsmith and just starts a shell. On the right-hand side of my screen here, I have a HTTP proxy running so we can inspect all the calls. So you can see here that my pod isn't really starting, and you can see over here on my HTTP proxy that we're seeing lots of 401s. So up here is our post request to Cloudsmith to the OpenID endpoint to try exchange the Kubernetes service account token for a Cloudsmith token. However, Because we are operating within the restricted namespace, Cloudsmith refuses to accept the token. If we come back over to our terminal window and just end that command and switch over into my default namespace and run the same command, you can now see that we successfully exchange a Kubernetes token for a Cloudsmith token, and we're able to pull down our image, and our image starts over here. So you've seen there how Kubernetes managed to seamlessly pull down an image from Cloudsmith without needing any image pull secrets defined. And you've seen restrictions that can be put in place. So you could say that only Kubernetes pods and specific namespaces can pull from specific service accounts within Cloudsmith. This feature adds great flexibility and lets us get away from having to manage a bunch of image pull secrets. If you want to try this out yourself, head on over to our GitHub at github.com/cloudsmith-.io. And you'll be able to download the Cloudsmith Kubernetes Credential Provider plugin, and the README contains a full walkthrough to bring it up locally in Minikube, just like I've shown you. If you have any issues, feel free to just create an issue on GitHub and I'll take a look at it. Other than that, I hope you're excited about a future of pulling images from private registries without needing to specify image pull secrets.